Welcome back to my YouTube channel, a channel where you will learn medical related course units in physiology, anatomy, pathophysiology, biochemistry, and others. And also you're going to learn about a lot of medical conditions from different systems of the body. And therefore today we are in physiology and we are going to be learning about the pancreas and its hormones, okay? And of course mainly we're going to do zeal more on the main hormones that are produced by the pancreas, which include insulin, glucagon, and somatostatin, and others. But before we dive into the hormones, we first want to understand the pancreas itself. We're going to look at the functional anatomy of the pancreas briefly, and then we can go into understanding the hormones that it actually produces. Now, before we go into that, we need to understand that this pancreas can perform mainly two functions. Okay, we have exocrine functions of the pancreas and also the endocrine functions of the pancreas. Okay, but when we are looking at its hormones, it means that mainly we are basically looking at the endocrine part of the pancreas. Now, the pancreas itself has got a lot of different types of cells. There are these cells that I've put in red, okay? These are the most common cells of the pancreas, and we call them acinous cells. Acinous cells, okay? Or acinized cells in that case. And then also we have some special types of cells that are integrated, okay, within the pancreas. They're kind of islands within the other cells of the pancreas, and we call them islets of Langerhans. Okay, so these islets of Langerhans basically about 1 to 2 million cells, and they make up about 2% of the total cells of the pancreas. Okay, so I hope that is understood. Now, these specific islets of Langerhans, okay, these cells also have different types of cells, and they include beta cells, okay, and beta cells, these produce insulin. Then we have alpha cells that produce glucagon, okay? Then we have delta cells, and these produce somatostatin, okay? And also have cells that we call F cells or what we call PP cells, and these basically produce pancreatic polypeptide. So, insulin is basically a polypeptide that has alpha and beta chains, okay, and it has a molecular weight of about 5,808, okay. All right, so this is briefly about the functional anatomy of the pancreas and its hormones. So let's come and look at the effects of insulin hormone on different fuels of the body, okay? So, one, we need to first understand when is insulin produced, okay? So insulin is produced in a fed state. When you have fed the body and you have increasing levels, for example, mostly of glucose in this case, okay, increased levels of the release of insulin as a hormone. We are going to look at in details the conditions that relate to the release of insulin hormone in detail. But as of now, let's look at carbohydrates. When you eat a lot of foods with a lot of carbohydrates, you're going to produce a lot of glucose in return, and this increased glucose is going to lead to release of insulin. And what is insulin going to do? One is that insulin is going to increase uptake of this glucose into liver cells, muscle cells, okay, plus adipose tissues. How does this happen? So, we understand that we have what we call glucose transporters, okay? We normally abbreviate it as glucose transporters. Now, the liver, muscle, and adipose tissues have what we call GLUT4. And GLUT4 is glucose transporter 4, is insulin sensitive. So when there is increased amounts of insulin, this becomes activated, it comes to the cell membrane and opens and so these channels become open and exposed, and it increases the uptake of glucose into these different types of muscles. Okay, so second one is it is going to increase storage, okay, of glucose. So in the liver is the biggest storage part of glucose. And therefore in the liver, this glucose is going to be turned into glycogen. Okay. This stores about 60% of glycogen in the body. And also in the muscles, it's going to increase storage, also in the form of glycogen, but about 2 at 3% is the one that is going to be stored in the muscles, okay? So, of course, as it is increasing the uptake, as it is increasing the storage, it means it is reducing the amount of glucose that is in blood. 2 or 3 actually is that it is going to inhibit what we call gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis. So gluconeogenesis is basically the formation of glucose from other sources. So insulin is going to decrease the process of gluconeogenesis, and as a result, it is going to decrease amount of glucose in blood. The third one is also, the fourth one actually, is that when there is increased insulin, it is going to reduce what we call glycogenolysis. So this is breakdown of glycogen, okay? So with insulin, it decreases the rate of glycogenolysis and therefore promoting more glucose that is going to still be kept in form of glycogen, okay? So this is about carbohydrates. Let's look at fats. Now, something in fats here, insulin is going to increase uptake of free fatty acids into adipose tissues, okay? 2, it is going to increase formation of fatty acids plus triglycerides, okay? 3, because insulin increases uptake, storage, and usage of glucose, it means it is going to spare fatty acids, okay? So it is going to spare use of fatty acids as fuels for energy, okay? Then also insulin on proteins, we are going to find that insulin also increases uptake of amino acids, okay, into different cells of the body. It also promotes formation of proteins, of course, from amino from amino acids. Okay. Also with protein, with insulin, it is going to increase. It is going to actually decrease catabolism of proteins. In other words, it promotes anabolism. Okay. We've looked at insulin. Okay, let's look at brief about glucagon. Now, glucagon as a hormone, it acts in opposite, or it acts against insulin. So in other words, it is just going to basically reverse all these effects that we've listed here. So let's look at them. Okay, so we are going to look at glucagon. Okay, so the effect of glucagon on carbohydrate is that, one, it is going to be produced when glucose has reduced. Okay, so one of my lecturers says that the way to remember that is that you have to know that glucagon is produced when glucose is gone. Okay, glucagon is produced when glucose is gone. Okay, so in other words, it is going to try and bring back the glucose in different ways. It's going to try and increase the levels of glucose in blood. How is it going to do it? One is that it is going to reduce the uptake. Okay, it is going to reduce the uptake of glucose into the liver, muscle, and adipose tissues through the GLUT4 that we already talked about. So when it decreases the uptake, glucose is going to increase in blood. Also, it is going to decrease the storage of glycogen into these different body organs. Also, it is going to promote gluconeogenesis. So, we've said that gluconeogenesis is the formation of glucose, the process through which glucose is formed through or from other different sources that are not glucose. For example, amino acids. Okay, so meaning it is going to improve gluconeogenesis, and also it is going to increase glycogenolysis. In other words, breakdown, this is glycogen, then lysis. It is going to increase breakdown of glycogen into glucose molecules. And of course, as a result, all these are going to result into increase in levels of glucose in the body. Okay, I hope you won't forget this. At least when you know about effects of insulin, then you can know that the reverse is actually true for glucagon.